Between 1950 and today, the population of West African states moved from got to 350 million from about 70 million. This 350 million population, as estimated today, could be more, half of it is from Nigeria. We estimate the population of Nigeria to be about 180 or most probably up to 200 million. Furthermore, if you look at the electricity consumption in terms of volume requirement by this population, you will also agree with me that Nigeria should consume at least about 60% of electricity consumption or electricity that could be produced in West Africa. The implication is that everyone will also believe me that if we get the privatization or modernization of utility in Nigeria right, then it will be very easy to do that in other African states. However, if you look at the value chain, one of the things that is very important is not the value chain as it is, but most probably the utility, which is where people interface. I would like to tell you that the chances that everything I said now is wrong is almost 100%. If you get the utility in Nigeria right, there is no guarantee that you're going to get the utility in other African states right. If you even get the utility operating in southern part of Nigeria right, you may not get the utility operating in the northern part of Nigeria right. And this is actually the focus of my discussion today. That while we want to look at how to modernize our utilities, what are the important things we need to do? Over the years, it's been believed that modernizing the utility, one of the things you need to do is to look for things that worked and borrow from them. That is called simply institutional transplantation. However, institutional transplantation is a very easy way to leapfrog in modernizing any of your network infrastructures, airports, every other thing. But the major thing will be, what do you really need to copy? And what do you want to grow in-house? Copying is a very good thing, but copying intelligently is the most important thing. And the power sector is not far away from the typical example of the network industry. Most of us grew up knowing the power sector to be a continuous chain, of which in Nigeria you call it NEPA. The generation, the transmission, the distribution is joined together. However, over the time, efficiency dropped, investment dropped, and then the easiest thing to do was to look at other countries in the world, going to South America and looking at them and saying, they decided to evolve and use another model. And the easiest model was to privatize the entities that you believe that can have competition, and the ones that will be monopoly, like the transmission and the distribution, at the end of the day has to be regulated. But the challenge here will be, during this privatization process, during this institutional transplantation, did we copy everything we needed to copy? And did we also leave what we are not supposed to copy? And evolve on things that we needed to do for ourselves? That is a simple understanding of mine. And I would like to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Egero CHIGOZIRI, and I will be talking about what we can do to leapfrog utility into the future. I will be responsible for whatever I'm saying here. No worker, work before, or anybody I'm working with now should be responsible, and you will be gladly responsible for whatever you hear. So let's look at utility very quickly. One of the things you notice in utility is that the face that people see is actually the distribution company, the company that sells electricity to you. But there is more to that than the eye can see. In fact, the major person in any electricity value chain is the fuel producer. But most probably, people don't ever get to see them. Now, the question becomes, why this utility is still what you see, and currently in Africa and in Nigeria, they don't serve you very well. The world is moving ahead. There are quite a lot of things going ahead. Electricity is being generated in distributed fashion. Quite a lot of investment going into green energy, quite a lot of investment going into small mini-grid and micro-grids to make sure that people are self-contained. When you look at this very well, you will understand that policy transplantation, like I said earlier, copying ideas from other people is also time-bound, that there are things you can copy, and after some time it expires. You don't need to go ahead to copy them. And furthermore, that there are things that you may not need to copy, you need to generate in-house. I would like to give a typical example. Our people work in community areas. The chances that you meet your friend that is not living in Nigeria and ask him the transformer that is giving him power and he doesn't know is very high. But the chances that 80% of people in Nigeria knows the particular transformer from where they get power is very possible, and in fact is the truth. So what does that mean? It means that while we think of utility as an area, as a franchise group, people think about it in form of communities. Then the question becomes, when we were taking these ideas, why didn't we incorporate this thinking of communities into the idea of electricity distribution? The next thing you will also find out is that it is also important for us to notice that having a big chunk of the utility has been broken down could pose a lot of challenge. From the countries where we copied these ideas, there were quite a lot of things that were in place. Financial institutions were in place to support borrowing, to support the infrastructural development. Legal institutions to make sure that things work accordingly were there. Behavior was totally different from ours, and the way they perceive ownership of assets is also completely different. However, when we copied their ideas and transplanted it directly into ours, some of these things needed to evolve. The question would have been, are we going to go ahead to make sure that we make our institutions to fit theirs, or to tailor our own solutions to conform to the norms and the things we have? And that is why I have an idea. And that idea is, what will the utility in this country be in future? What are the boundaries of what a utility should do? What are the responsibilities of any utility in Africa, in this, our region, to make sure that we can meet up with the developmental challenges that are coming up? With the new technologies evolving, what are the things that we need to do to actually make sure that we can move as fast as we did, the way we did in telecom industry? Do we need to reinvent the wheel? And this spans from a little experience I got from my job. When I came to operate sometime in one of the utilities, a friend of mine asked me, why do you want to go and do this very difficult job? How do you think you're going to talk to people who do not understand what you do? But a bit of my experience was that when you try to educate the people, you get a lot of ideas from them that actually makes your work. Taking these ideas from them actually implies that there are quite a lot of knowledge out there that are not written that we can borrow. It also taught me that we can actually go ahead and borrow these ideas where we're doing institutional transplantation, merge them, and do something very important. So the utility of the future, in my own perspective, is a utility that will have public participation. You need the entire public to come in and participate in this. You need ownership of the people to understand that this is how a utility should operate. It also implies that stakeholder management becomes key. Therefore, the operation of a utility is no longer going to be an optimization of welfare, but an optimization of customer behavior and customer relationship. And gentlemen, if you agree with me on this, I think you will also understand that the breaking down of this utility along the value chain, in as much as it was aimed at increasing efficiency, also brought the bad aspect of it. And the bad aspect of it was that it brought in disconnection between the people that generate power, the people that transmit, the people that distribute, even the customers. Nobody understands each other, nobody talks to each other. I believe that the utility of the future is something that will be a platform that will integrate everybody back, that will reconnect everybody in the value chain, and will define the boundaries of the utility. Does the utility need to still own assets? Or does the utility have to go ahead and be a platform that manages different assets? Does the utility need to go ahead and take all the risk? Or can the utility share the risk with the people who are ready to bear the risk with them? Does the utility have to go ahead and have a regulated revenue of which they're expecting? Or are they happy to go ahead and enter the market and compete and make as much money or as less as they wish to do according to their capacity? Do you still expect customers to evaluate you? Or do you want, as a utility, a customer to be a part of the story, so that when the customer evaluates themselves, they also evaluate the performance of the value chain? This is not a different story in other network industries. Because in other network industries, telecom, for example, in most of the parts of Africa, of Nigeria, of which Nigeria is included, you will find out that the participation of the people on ground has changed how things worked. In Nigeria, telecom started with printing of call cards. After some time, this has totally changed and has moved into other financial sector. I expect the utility of the future to also go ahead and work in this light. So ladies and gentlemen, if you agree with me this evening, I need you to sit and reimagine things. Reimagine a utility that does not have a direct place to buy energy, but crowdsource energy according to what the platform can open up. Reimagine a utility that source of energy is not only dependent on transmission network, but also dependent on various sources of the network, of which it provides a technology solution to balance this network and provide adequate electricity. Reimagine a utility that does not want to have all the assets and all the people with all the developers with them, but is capable of outsourcing it and let the best of the hands handle it. Have you ever imagined a utility that the customer service is not resident with them, but resident with a specialist organization that can manage customer service efficiently and with time can evolve into the best of utility customer service management? Imagine a utility that does not have to go out there presenting their books to borrow money, but can crowdsource money because different communities are ready to build their network according to standard that is specified and let the utility manage it. Imagine a utility that does not have to have the price set, but allow the forces in the market to set this price. Imagine this utility offering you enormous opportunities to create jobs, enormous opportunities to show your innovation. Imagine a utility that is not dependent on what we borrowed from other people. If you can imagine this today, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to also understand that whatever we do, doing this, implementing this is very simple. It's like a simple pencil. That we should, as a proverbial pencil, we should not be afraid to clean up our mistakes, and that is why we have an eraser. And as a proverbial pencil, no matter how beautiful the outside is, no matter how beautiful whatever covers it is, what is most important is what is inside. And as a proverbial pencil as well, ladies and gentlemen, that if you want to write your own story in your own font, there is a painful process of sharpening, and everybody must be involved, and everybody must have patience. And if you can imagine this utility that is an integration of all these elements that makes up a pencil, then welcome to the utility of the future, and good afternoon.